Welcome to Module 4, Systems Leadership. Module 4 is the last of the theory modules. This module will explore some of the unique leadership qualities that can support the aspects of systems change that have been presented in the previous modules. As a reminder, this toolkit is an effort to capture our learning from this initiative with the Fred Hollows Foundation. It's not a complete exploration of all of the existing theories or the depth of each of these concepts, but it is an introduction to the prominent ones that informed our decision-making. It is hoped that making these underlying concepts explicit will be a first step towards a shared language within the organization, and that they can be used to spark conversation and planning for the ways forward in various contexts. The goals for this module are to present a definition of systems leadership that was being operationalized in this initiative, to discuss how this differs from other forms of leadership in important ways to support systems change, and to present core systems leadership skills that individuals can exercise and develop to support systems change efforts. One definition of a systems leader is that it's a leader who's able to exercise three main capacities. The first is that they have the ability to step back and see the larger system. This is in contrast to symptomatic fixes of just parts of the system. Number two, they're able to foster reflection and more generative conversations among the many actors within that system. And three, that they can shift the focus of conversations and solutions from reactive problem solving to one that is aiming to co-create the future and transform and redesign the system that they're operating within. Importantly within systems leadership is that to tackle these complex problems and reduce service duplication, systems leadership centers the users of a system. So their needs, their perspectives, and their priorities are what drive and determine interventions rather than the needs of service agencies. One of the challenges with applying the systems leadership approach is being able to distinguish between more traditional approaches and what systems leadership is really trying to do differently. And so one tool in this initiative that's been helpful are the following two slides and communicating what it is that the vision is for this transformation of how the organization is approaching improving eye health. And so the circle on the left is a representation of a more very traditional approach, which would be linear, symptomatically focused, and an intervention within an isolated sector. So for example, this purple circle could represent a health sector, a health system even. And the intervention would be one that's more linear. And so this could be similar to the intervention that was used as an example in the previous module around systems dynamics, looking at an eyeglass intervention. So the number of people that need eyeglasses is measured. The intervention is provided, such as the delivery of glasses and screening. And then the number of people with corrected vision is counted. And so we see this was our beginning number, this is where we're at the end, and we determine the success based on that. Another perspective that may be a little closer to where we're aiming with the systems leadership approach is still within a single sector. So this is the circle on the right. The boundaries are still around the health system. It's still reactive, so maybe it's looking at maybe urgent needs. It's kind of responding to what is happening from the system. So maybe it's addressing surgical needs or it's addressing urgent childhood eye screening, something like that. And it may be reacting and responding to feedback from the system, but it's still relying on a single type of expertise. Maybe it's very focused on eye experts, eye health perspectives, and really focusing on the health system in isolation. The second slide shows our goal for the application of systems leadership, which is the ability to step back and see the larger system, to see all of the connections, the networks, the different sectors that are influencing our health outcome of interest, and to shift the conversation from one that invites other perspectives and facilitates that conversation that's collaborative and generative around co-creating the future. And this isn't necessarily an isolated conversation. This is supporting systems leaders throughout this system to also lead their own conversations so that there's multiple interventions around improving eye health in this example. So in the image, you can see that the boundaries have been expanded. So they're no longer drawn around the health system or healthcare only, which would be that purple circle in the top right. But by expanding the boundaries, we can see that health outcomes aren't being determined only by the health system, but that there's other influences that are interacting and influencing that outcome. And so maybe these additional circles could be the education system or labor sector, but they're also having an impact and have a potential influence on improving health outcomes. And so those perspectives are the perspectives that need to be brought in and to be encouraged to contribute and to also lead change so that the overall outcome can be improved in a sustainable way. Before diving into some of the specifics of the system's leadership style, there are a few kind of points to make that can be sticking points or could be points of challenge or confusion around the term leadership in particular in this context. One is that a systems leadership is not an organizational position or a position of authority even. The systems leadership approach is a role that potentially anyone can play because the role is one that values the diverse locations of individuals across the system. And so it doesn't require an expertise with any particular area, but being able to serve as an interaction, an intersection point within the system, and to facilitate those conversations that are bringing in different perspectives to solve this challenge, this public health issue, is what's really important. And it's also a type of skill set that supports leadership in ambiguity, which is an important theme throughout all of these modules and within the work within complexity, is that many of the decisions that have to be made are ambiguous. There isn't a right answer, but it's a leadership that's able to support that uncertainty, but being able to make that decision, facilitate those debriefs, facilitate the incorporation of new information so that it can continue forward as learning grows and develops. And so systems leadership can be thought of or visualized as a type of distributed leadership, where it's not hierarchical, where one person is in charge, but it's more flat, where people at the core may be those that started really early on in the project and have now engaged other people from different locations in the system, different sectors, different communities, different roles that are now engaged within a different project. And so not everyone is necessarily working together on the same project, but everyone is working together to support this long-term improvement across the system for this health outcome. An important question is, how can we as practitioners be effective systems leaders and support both our work and the work of others within complex systems aiming towards transformative change, particularly to address health inequities? Gate et al., in an article they write, and which is available in the more information slide, propose 6 practice dimensions that attempt to articulate what are the particular skill sets that individuals exercise in successful systems leadership. The first are personal core values. These are the ways that a person feels both about the work that they're doing and about the system and the users at this core. And these are the personal commitment to the needs of those users. There tends to be a drive for public service, as well as an emotional investment in these outcomes, which can contribute to that resilience in the face of slow or long-term change, and as well as resilience in the face of opposition or resistance as we approach shifting power dynamics, which can be very uncomfortable for all of those involved. The second are observations, hearing, and perceptions, and they call these a way of perceiving. This is that aspect that was just discussed of stepping back. How are we seeing and perceiving the system that we're operating in? Do we see it as small boundary, or do we see it as a larger view with many different aspects interacting and us narrowing down to focus on a specific part, but then being able to step back again? It's also how we respond to and perceive disagreement and how we seek to hear or include those diverse perspectives. A third component is cognition, analysis, and synthesis. This played a huge role in this initiative, particularly in the early stage while we were working on communication of our goals. But these are the ways of thinking, and this includes the systems thinking, but how are we supporting sense making in this complexity? Are we able to incorporate multiple sources of information and package it in a way that can support the work of others? Are we intellectually flexible? Are we able to propose a hypothesis, such as in a model, of how we think a system works, and be flexible enough to receive information that may not be correct and that we need to adjust our mental models so that we can have the most positive impact possible? And most importantly, are we open to learning? Because, as has been repeated throughout these modules, work within complexity requires ongoing learning in a system that is too large to ever completely know and understand. And so openness to learning has to be a core component for ourselves, and that we're able to support others in developing the capacity to be open for new information. The fourth practice dimension is the participatory style. What are the ways we relate to others? In an effort to approach a problem in a way that requires bringing in diverse perspectives, maybe people that haven't been included before, questioning existing power dynamics for systems change, that requires a really particular way of relating to people because we're asking for a lot. And so we need to be able to build these respectful and empathetic relationships and be transparent and authentic in the work we do so that we can manage difficult conversations and interacting with people that don't agree with us in a way that can be productive and that we're, again, also flexible to adjust our perspectives. Our behaviors and actions are the next practice dimension, the ways of doing. And so that's additionally not how only how we lead and how we act, but how are we enabling the leadership and actions of others? Because systems leadership, again, as was shown in the distributed leadership visual, is not about one leader at the top kind of guiding other people. It's about a leader working with other leaders across a system. And so it can't be about competition or getting credit, which can be very difficult, but it's acting in a way that enables the success of others. And that's a really important and difficult shift. But any change in a system this large and complex will never be accomplished by an isolated leader or actor. So any competitive attempts to hide information or limit engagement from others not only limits the potential of others, but it limits the potential of the person as well because they will not be able to do it on their own. And so we want to be able to engage with others in a way that supports them and as well a way that constructs that clear and inspiring narrative around how are we all working together from different points and in different ways towards this larger common goal so that while we are in this ambiguity and this uncertainty, we're able to have that guiding narrative, that guiding vision about how all of this different work is getting us towards this long term goal. And lastly, the sixth practice dimension are these personal qualities. And these are leadership styles and traits that are often very different from that traditional command and control hierarchical leader. And so systems leader is one that acts with humility, that thinks of others, that is patient, because we're working on supporting decision and action in this ambiguity. And so we want to be able to support others within that work while also having confidence and energy and determination so that we can take these risks that are acting when we may be uncertain and being able to be responsible in the decisions we make, to step out, do an intervention, engage with the system, and be prepared to receive information that may be unexpected, and then improve our intervention moving forward. Because without that willingness to take risks, it can be really easy to be kind of frozen and not act within the system. And we want to be able to do that so we continue to learn and grow and improve our interventions and really make that sustainable change. There's a lot of great information about systems leadership out there from various sectors, and some of the resources that were used in this module and also resources that have been helpful along this way are included here as well. Up next is Module 5. Module 5 is the first of the practice modules, and so this is a shift from the exploration of our theories around systems to the practice of systems change. And so in Module 5, we'll identify selected challenges practitioners have faced in bridging systems theory to practice, and to acknowledge this shared challenge and discuss potential mitigation strategies.